Morning Matters.
Perspectives
from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene and you're listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. Today we are going to talk about haze in Indonesia and what is causing it. We will be speaking with Harry Purnomo. He's a professor or scientist at Center for Forestry Research in Bogor. He has a PhD in forest management and policy. He conducts research on criteria and indicators of sustainable forest management, adaptive collaborative management of forests, company community partnership, forest governance, mitigation, adaptation to climate change and furniture value chains. He also participated in scientific conferences, workshops and seminars around the world and visited forests in Asia, Africa, Europe, Australia and South America. First of all, Professor Harry Purnomo, welcome to the studio and thanks for sparing some time to share with us on the haze crisis in Indonesia.
Okay. Thank you, Arlene, for contacting me. Yes, fire and haze now is becoming a tragedy and disaster in Southeast Asia. So we need to find a way to find a solution. It's not for only this year, but also the coming years.
That's true. And it has become such a regional crisis that countries that is neighboring Indonesia has been quite concern about this. But just to focus more on what is happening in Sumatra and Kalimantan right now, what are the current updates that you have found out?
Yeah, the situation is not very bad in Sumatra, particularly in Rio, Jambi and South Sumatra, as well as in West Kalimantan and also Central Kalimantan. So the government of Indonesia is working together with other components, including NGOs, local community, try to solve this problem, to suppress this problem. Because some fire actually is happening in a peatland. It's not very easy actually. It's not only not very easy, but very difficult to stop a fire now. So it's good now we can learn from the existing fire now, but I think it's effort is need to be done in fire prevention for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, water bombing, as artificial rains has been taking place, but it's not enough to suppress a fire. So perhaps the rain will be coming in October, November, December will help a lot in suppressing the fire and haze.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, the impact to the economy is very large. I calculate.
It's really large.
So it's about 10 billion US dollar. The loss, the economic loss due to haze this year. Yep.
And this is economic cost just in Indonesia or all over Southeast Asia?
Including Southeast Asia, is maybe more 15 billion if we include the Malaysia and Singapore. Singapore claim is more than 2 billion economic loss due to haze, and I believe Malaysia is almost the same amount. Also, in Indonesia, each province will lose is more or less 2 billion US due to the reducing the economic activities, health problem, as well as the the closing of the airport. There's many things.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's in terms of landscape itself, burning land. Mm-hmm. But the problem is now it's not all people are losing due to fire, because some get benefit because of fire. Because fire is a way to to prepare land for particularly for the
And
plantation.
this is entirely based on your personal observation and research on the ground, meeting with the communities and with all the stakeholders that are part of the forest fires.
Yes, this committee is not only the local committee but also the mid class committees. It's not very poor committee actually. We can call it a small company or even informal companies is required to prepare their land, as well as the companies that are connected to the giant companies located based in Indonesia as well as based in Singapore and Malaysia. It's all are connected, but need more investigation. But I appreciated that the Minister of Environment of Singapore, Vivian Balakrishnan, has sent a legal notice to companies. One is actually the very, very large company is in Singapore that they need to clean up their value chain, their supply chains. Because some companies actually is controlled by Singaporean and Malaysian. My estimation is about half of the oil palm companies is in Indonesia, located in Indonesia, is controlled by Malaysian and Singaporean. And
So half of the companies are owned by Malaysian and Singaporean companies. Is somehow interconnected regionally. It seems like.
Yes, if we look back in the 98 when we had financial crisis, Indonesian financial crisis, that then the Indonesian government was pressured by IMF open the investment from foreign countries, and at that time the Singaporean and Malaysian came to Indonesia, and they were very, very interested in plantation business, particularly the oil palm. So I think it's a coincidence because the fire started 20 years ago. At the same time that the more investment came to Indonesia, large scale oil palm, and yeah, it's not, to me, it's not only the problem of Indonesia, but the more regional problem. How to solve Indonesia itself, and also supported by Malaysia and Singapore government. Because
Sorry,
yep.
Sorry, I want to ask you, this has become such a regional problem, but it also has become such an annual affair. More and more forests are being burned down. Why is this happening?
Just because there is incentive to clear forest and land. My study mentioned if the land is burned, then the value of land increase, and also if the big companies or companies use fire, that they can reduce the cost of preparing of oil palm plantations. In the end of the day, they are more competitive in selling the CPO, the palm oil, to other countries, because mostly palm oil from Indonesia exported to China and India. Most of their economies is very, very strong, and this create incentive to grow more oil palm, and the easiest way is using the easiest and the cheapest way. So it's economically rational, but the cost, the environmental cost, is very, very high. But the benefit from this kind of, I call it a landscape transition, from dominated by forest, now is dominated by the plantation, that owned by a large company, a small company, as well as local community. To me, it's like the trend that between the conservation and development, but now it's not very, very good, because the cost of environment is very high, and who bear the cost of environment is not those who get a benefit from fire. Those who get benefit from fire actually is the companies, big and small, including companies based in Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia. But who bear the cost are actually the citizen in Singapore, Malaysia, as well as in Kalimantan and Sumatra.
That's true.
This is the state need to be there to make sure that those who get a benefit bear the cost.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, we'll take one short break. When we return, we'll discuss further on the haze crisis in Indonesia.
Monday Morning Matters.
Perspectives
From Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene. You're with me and also with Professor Harry Purnomo, scientist at the Center for Forestry Research, or C4, in Bogor. And of course, his extensive research and studies on the forest environment in Sumatra has led him to provide a more holistic view on what is happening on the forest fire as well as the haze crisis affecting ASEAN. So to continue my discussion with you, I would like to know how much of it, I'm talking about forest fire, is caused due to El Nino or dry weather pattern, and how much of it is actually caused by man, people just setting it on fire?
The cost is very high, as I mentioned. Is every province in Indonesia maybe is losing around $2 billion. We have 5 provinces now. It costs about 10 billion.
Mm-hmm. And how much of it is caused by people? I mean, the situation on the ground. There are people who say that the forest. Sorry, there are people on the ground.
Say again, Arlene.
Okay, there are people on the ground saying that some of the fires are caused by El Nino or the dry weather, but but there are also people claiming that majority of the forest fire are man-made. Which one accounted the most?
Yes, that's correct. Actually, it's not only the forest fire, it's land and forest fire. So land also is not only about forest, but also land fire. It is yes, El Nino is make the situation worse, but you are correct when you said that it is man-made fire. Mm-hmm. It is a way actually to develop the agriculture. It is more of the agriculture development using fire. It's very, very traditional if it is at the very, very small scale. But then, if it is a large scale that we have what we are facing now, because as you know that the fire is using by the farmers for 100 years, but at very, very small scale. But now it's using also by the companies at the small, medium, and also large companies. That the situation make a worse. And you're correct. It is a man-made fire as a human-made fire. And also this is we are watching the landscape transition from dominated by forest, now is becoming dominated by plantation. And unfortunately, actually, plantation is one of the comparative advantage, particularly for Indonesia in the global competition. So the problem is the challenge is how to develop a plantation as more friendly with support, of course, from the ASEAN countries, including Malaysia and Singapore. Because as I mentioned before, many companies connected to the investor coming from Malaysia and Singapore. So how the region have a competitive advantage on plantation, but how to move it in more economic, more environmental friendly. Because at the global level, actually, oil palm palm oil is compete with the soybean, with the rapeseed oils. So reducing costs is one way to achieve the competitiveness. But to me, it's not necessary. We have to sacrifice the environment and also the health of a million of people.
That's true. And on the other hand, the haze crisis has been going on for decades. But why only a couple of days ago, President Joko Widodo considered to declare it as a national disaster?
Yes, actually, the problem of haze mostly is at the district and provincial level. So the central government is waiting for the district and provincial government to declare it as becoming a disaster, and then the national government will take care. This is also what I call it the budget politics, because in Indonesia, most budget connected to the fire is on the suppression side, not on the prevention side. So if there is a fire, then the budget from government is there. If there is no fire, it's difficult for you to get the budget. So my work with friends here, how to convince the government to save the budget allocated to fire on the prevention part, not on the suppression part. So the international standard mentioned that 80% should be in the prevention, on the 20% in suppression. But Indonesia is in the other way around. Is 20% on the prevention, is 80% on the suppression. So we need to change this kind of budget allocation. So again, the way is how to ensure the environmental costs due to haze is internalized to the company's operations, as well as as a business in Southeast Asia, particularly Indonesia and Singapore, Malaysia is all connected to the elites, local elites, backing strong people in the government at the local, national, as well as at the regional level. I really appreciated the work of the Helena Farke from the University of Malaysia, that actually is describing the patronage network in the Southeast Asia. So it's good if you also can interview her, because it's really is a fantastic work from Helena. She tried to put the problem of haze in the I think it's a good angle, because first it is more to the economical problem, and also it is connected to the network of people in Southeast Asia. Why in the 98 when we opened the investment from foreign company to the plantation, mostly it's the Singapore and Malaysia, because our neighboring countries, Singapore and Malaysia, knew very well how to connect with the local network and patronage network at the local level, and that make the capacity of government reduce because of due to the patronage network between companies and the people in government. It's not only in Indonesia but also in the in Malaysian government. Many as a huge company from Malaysia have patron in the government. So sometimes it's hinder the capacity of ASEAN itself to reduce fire, because ASEAN is need to be a consensus, and this lobby from the companies, the giant companies in each country, reduce the capacity of ASEAN itself to eliminate fire.
I see.
And I agree with you. It's already decades. But it is, as I mentioned, it is a landscape transformation.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I want to ask another question about the palm oil.
Drive by also because of the sorry.
Yeah, I would like to ask. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Let me ask again. I would like to ask about the palm oil industry cartels. Are they entirely at fault here? Because we all know that they are not just based in Indonesia. Some of them are from Malaysia and Singapore. Do you think more political will from other countries should be in terms of trying to suppress any industry cartels that use the method of forest fire?
From other countries in terms of what? Sorry, say again.
Okay, let me ask again. So regarding on the palm oil industry cartels that are the one actually feeding the forest fire, maybe not directly, maybe indirectly, do you think countries like Malaysia, Indonesia and Singapore should have a firmer law to curb them? Because it's easy to say that, we need to curb what is happening on the ground with the villages, with the communities, but they are receiving money, they are receiving benefits from these industry cartels, especially palm oil industry cartels.
Yeah, each country needs to do, to me, a more proactive way to ensure that the companies can clean their supply chains and make sure that they don't use fire, they don't use burning in doing plantation. So I think Singapore is make very advanced move by having law. Every company is listed in Singapore and need to clean their supply chains. I think it's good also as Malaysia can follow the Singaporean government that not only blaming Indonesia but looking their own companies, because some the one companies connected to the one country Singapore and Palelawan Rio actually is a subsidiary from the Malaysian companies. So how the Malaysian government not maybe to prosecute that company as a huge company based in Malaysia, but on the supply chain is connected to fire. I didn't heard any proactive move from the Malaysian government to prosecute that company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need to be proactive. Don't wait for Indonesia to give you the list of companies, because now it's 286 as declared by the government of Indonesia connected to fire, indicated using fire in preparing their plantation, and some is connected to the Malaysia and Singapore. So to me, like Malaysia does a very proactive way to investigate those companies. So to me, it's like how each government in Southeast Asia try to make a good move, excellent move by cleaning their companies.
Mm-hmm. By the way, we'll take another short break. When we return, we will discuss further on how can ASEAN curb the fire starters and also the forest fire and haze.
Monday Morning Matters.
Perspectives
From Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene. You're back with me again at Durian ASEAN talking about the haze crisis in Indonesia with Professor Harry Purnomo. So early on, we discussed a lot about the haze situation on the ground in Kalimantan and Sumatra, as well as the causes of these man-made fires, which is what countries in Southeast Asia are concerned about. On the other hand, let's see what ASEAN have done. They have actually ratified a transboundary Haze agreement, and besides that, more needs to be done actually. So, Professor, what do you think of the recent ratification of the transboundary Haze pollution agreement?
Yeah, that's a good way. It is excellent that Indonesia, I think the last country to ratify the agreement. Now it's becoming binding regulation for the whole ASEAN countries. Now the problem is how to implement those regulations. Because as you know that the ASEAN is the association is quite loose. Is still the sovereignty of each state is very very high, and many agreements or action based on the consensus. All countries need to be agreed before doing something. Sometimes it hinder the capacity of ASEAN to have a strong move. But now we have a binding regulation of the transboundary Haze. Now it's time to act at the ASEAN level. And again, each country need to be very very proactive to move forward. No need to wait for other countries to make a progress.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. If now Malaysia can prosecute their own companies that cause space, just do it to put them on fine by law and all.
Talking about the law, are the current laws sufficient enough to curb the fire status?
Everything by law. So it's, to me it's like ASEAN need to be. The law is quite in Indonesia is quite good, and Singapore is very excellent. I don't really know in Malaysia, but the problem is sometimes not on the law, but how to execute this law, because of, as I mentioned before, a lot of big guys in oil pump business in ASEAN countries. So sometimes it's quite difficult to make this law is really well executed, because the influence of those big guys.
Mm-hmm. By the way, the ASEAN Haze monitoring system, has it improved the way people like you and people within the government trying their best to curb and to monitor who are the fire starters and where the forest fire happen?
Actually, it's not very difficult, because we have a map of fire and we have a map of concession. As a big overlay, as we know where the fire are happening. But the problem is who started the fire. Sometimes even it is on the concession in particular company, it's not necessary it's started by this company. Can be someone else started the fire, because in Indonesia, if you have concession, it's not necessary you have control to the whole concession.
Mm-hmm.
Because when the government allocated the land for concession, for instance, you get 10,000 hectares, some maybe 2,000 or 3,000 hectares actually is occupied by the communities. So the problem on the ground is very very complex, because it's also the livelihood of local communities. So to me, it's not to blame the companies or to the local community, but how to transform the agriculture development in more environmental way, because it is a very very good business. But if we are not do very carefully, then the cost of environment is very, very high.
That's true.
So there's a way to develop how to reconcile at the end of the day, to reconcile between the agriculture development and forest conservation, because forest and agriculture.
I think on the other hand, we also need to think about the immediate livelihood and income sources for these people or these communities who have been paid by companies to burn the forest. What are the alternatives that you can think of based on your research that these communities can focus on rather than causing more fire on peatlands?
Yes, one big move if the initiative like RED Plus, reducing emission from deforestation and forest degradation. But the problem is not now we don't have strong bias for the carbon emission reduction credit for the carbon credit. So if the companies could become the buyers of a carbon credit, I think will be very, very nice. So as I mentioned several times that ASEAN need to have kind of generating the buyers of carbon credit. Because this is in parallel with the carbon emission. But if there is money to compensate people, or local people, or for companies not to use fire, to do more friendly by selling the carbon credit, and there is a buyer in Southeast Asia, I believe one problem is solved, the livelihood of a community. Also, give a company incentive to do something good. No, it's not very strong incentive actually from the regional communities at the ASEAN level to do more environmental friendly for the community as well as for the companies.
And finally, as the public in either in Indonesia, Malaysia or Singapore, what can we do to stop the haze and also forest fire, if possible, from happening in Southeast Asia and Indonesia in particular?
Says now, why don't we look next year? So we cannot stop the haze when it is happening. It's very, very difficult and very, very costly. So we do our best with the help of the ASEAN countries, but focused for the next year. Because if we still doing something like now, haze will be coming next year. So focus on the next year and make from the Indonesia to allocate a budget more on the fire prevention. Because one thing is how to have a clear spatial plan where agriculture and forest can be synergies, because they need each other. So we still need to maintain the competitiveness of this region, but at the same time we need to work together to make sure that they operate in an environmental friendly way. If they cost the environment, they have to pay the cost. This is my strong message. Who make the environment degraded, they have to pay, including the government. And also, I also the professor at the Bogor Agriculture University, and several of my friends are also working at the same topic. And also, I recommend you to connect with Helena Farke from the University of Malaya, that is also doing very, very good job in investigating and understanding of land and forest fire in not only in Indonesia but in this region, the connectivity between ASEAN and Indonesia in terms of fire and peace.
With that, thank you very much, Professor Harry Purnomo.
Okay, thank you, Arlene. Have a good morning.
You too, thank you.